After we talked about bravery, I've been wondering what actually sustains a person long term. Because it's one thing to stand up and be brave in the moment, but it's another thing to keep on standing. The adrenaline alone cannot sustain you long term. What's going to sustain a person is something that they can return to again and again, even when it gets chaotic and it feels incredibly overwhelming, which I think a lot of us are experiencing nowadays. So, Mom, I'm wondering when things feel relentless, what actually helps keep us human beings steady?
I think that's such a good point. Outrage cannot sustain us forever, and living in emergency mode is just simply not possible for the human system to endure. And so we really must find, if we are going to continue to speak against the injustices that we are seeing all around us, if we are going to continue to be brave and stand up for others, what will sustain us in this effort long term? We don't want it to be an escapism to that, where we turn a blind eye to the
Right.
injustices that are around. We don't want that. So what we need to find is a way to be rooted and a way to be steady. And probably that does not involve, doom scrolling or, the superficial wellness trends. None of those things are deeply rooted and are deeply human. And so often what we find that sustains us is not dramatic. It's more rhythmic. It's more quiet that usually fills us humans up and gives us the strength and the sustenance to go on.
Absolutely. And you always help me remember one thing in particular that can help sustain us. And I don't think it's emphasized enough in our society. And that thing is community. You will not get very far if you feel like you are in this struggle alone. That feeling of isolation, of, oh my God, it feels like I'm the only one having to hold all of the terribleness in the world. And it feels so heavy and it all just hurts so much. You almost kind of can shut down in that way. But the moment you realize that you are not experiencing this alone, and you reach out to others and you show up for each other, suddenly things can feel a lot more manageable. And of course, it's there's still so much chaos and so much injustice in the world, but you're holding it together and you get to share in the grief, but also moments of joy, whether that's on a smaller scale or whether that's progress that you've made towards justice. Being in a community is just so much better for your mental health because we're not meant to be solo creatures. And so even just being with someone, maybe sitting on the front porch, having coffee together, laughing, these are not moments of escapism. They're moments of humanity. And it's kind of the gift that keeps on giving too, because you're all sustaining each other.
There really is something about doing things together that makes it survivable. I think that community piece is so important because it is that communal nature of it all that does help us reclaim our humanity. And another thing that being in community does so well is it helps us stay grounded in what matters, in the meaning of it all, that we all have a role to play here in making this world good for all of us. So when we are enduring and working through the hard things in community, it really does help remind us who we are, what our value systems are. And it really is a constant, let's remember this together. Let's not let go of our values and the good for each other together. So that meaning really does hold a little stronger when we're holding it in community.
And I feel like another thing, in addition to community and meaning, another thing that can help sustain us through a lifetime is perspective. Something I've heard you say a lot is the story is not finished. This is merely a chapter in a long book. And it does help sometimes to zoom out and to see where we are in history and how Movements for change and social justice have been going on for centuries, and they will continue to go on after we are gone. It's a humbling thing to have that perspective, but it can also feel very relieving to know that we are merely part of a story that is has been going on and will continue to go on after we're gone.
That's so important to remember. We are living in a chapter. This is not the whole book. The story does go on. And so, what we are reminded of is that we are part of a long history of people who have come before us. There will be people after us who continue to stand up and work as a community to stand against injustices. And so, I think is something that can really kind of be uplifting to our hearts to know that even if in this moment today it feels like our voices are being ignored, or the bad actors are winning, and the people of good heart are just being disregarded, in fact that's not the end of the story. The story is going to keep going. And so that's another thing we can do communally, is to remind each other of that.
And some signs that you're starting to feel depleted and need to tune into some of these ways of sustaining. The depletion can show up in a variety of ways. You might start to feel irritated or maybe numb and removed from it all, or maybe very lonely and isolated. And one particular way that you might start to fill your cup back up again is to have a real in person talk with somebody. This might be somebody you know. It doesn't have to be a best friend. It might even just be a stranger that you run into at the grocery store. Taking the time to have a talk and ask about the other person and see what's going on in their life. We cannot underestimate how these conversations just help check us into our humanity, remind us that we're not alone, and these things can continue to sustain you.
And that's so good. And also this showing up locally, this stuff really matters. When you show up to events or organized protests, or surrounding yourself with other people of good heart who are trying to use their voices as well. These are things that, again, remind us we're not alone in this, and really standing there with other humans in person locally can be so refueling. This is the stuff you feel, that community.
Yes, and speaking of feeling things in your body, in addition to these community practices, just doing things that bring you back into your body and are embodied activities. Maybe that's taking a walk, walking your dogs, cooking, sharing meals with others. These activities help remind us of who we are, and they help sustain us so that we can continue being brave day after day.
And that's so important, because it is the sustained people that are the ones who are able to continue to be brave. And I think this time that we are in, it does call for continual bravery. And so these practices that of being local, having real conversations with people, doing embodied things that keep you in tune with who you are, that is the stuff that will sustain us through what is likely to be a lot of bravery needed.
And so, watchers, I'm wondering what helps sustain you. Please share in the comments. We would really love to hear from you. My name is Michelle. That's my mom, Ashley. We are Connection from here. We so appreciate you being here, and we will connect again soon.